The knock on Grayson's door came at midnight, during Montana's worst blizzard in 20 years. When he opened it, shotgun ready, he found a woman collapsing into his home, bruised, terrified, and asking for just one night of shelter. He thought he was saving a stranger from the storm. He didn't know she was running from something far more dangerous than snow. He didn't know that her ex-husband was tracking her across 3 states. And he certainly never expected that protecting her would mean confronting his own decade of isolation. One night. That's all she asked for. But some doors, once opened, change everything forever. The January wind screamed across the Montana plains like a wounded animal. Grayson Tucker stood at his kitchen window, watching snow accumulate against the barn walls. 43 years old, weathered by a decade of solitude, he'd grown accustomed to the silence that filled his ranch house. The coffee in his mug had gone cold an hour ago, but he hadn't noticed. The knock came so suddenly he thought it was a branch hitting the door. Then it came again, desperate, urgent. Grayson grabbed the shotgun from above the fireplace, a reflex from years of isolation making him cautious. When he opened the door, he found a woman collapsed against the frame, her lips blue, hands trembling. Snow caked her dark hair and thin jacket. She looked up at him with eyes that held something beyond cold. They held fear. "Please," she managed through chattering teeth. "Just one night. I'll leave at first light." He lowered the shotgun. Whatever threat this woman posed, it wasn't to him. Grayson stepped aside, and she stumbled into the warmth of his home, bringing with her the first human presence these walls had felt in 3 years. "Sit by the fire," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "I'll get blankets." She nodded, wrapping her arms around herself as she sank onto the worn couch. Grayson noticed the bruise on her cheekbone, partially hidden by her hair, and the way she positioned herself to see both the door and the windows. This wasn't just a woman caught in a storm. This was a woman running from something far more dangerous than weather. Morning came with unexpected quiet. The storm had passed, leaving 3 feet of fresh snow that made the dirt road to town impassable. Grayson found Claire. She'd given him just her first name, awake before dawn, staring out at the white expanse. "Road won't be clear for at least 3 days, he said, pouring coffee. "You're welcome to stay until it is." "I can work," she said quickly. "I don't want charity. I can cook, clean, help with the animals." Something in her voice told him she'd negotiated this kind of arrangement before, always keeping an exit strategy. Grayson nodded. Cattle need feeding. Extra hands wouldn't hurt. Over the following days, Claire proved herself capable. She knew her way around a ranch, could mend fence wire, and didn't complain about the cold. But it was the small things Grayson noticed. How she flinched at sudden noises. How she positioned herself near exits. How she never talked about where she'd come from or where she was going. On the 4th evening, as they sat eating dinner in comfortable silence, Grayson realized something that unsettled him. He didn't want her to leave. The house felt different, with her in it. Coffee tasted better when someone else was there to drink it. The silence felt less like isolation and more like peace. He caught himself listening for her footsteps, looking forward to the quiet conversations they'd started having over meals. "Grayson," she said softly, "why do you live out here alone?" He set down his fork. "Lost my wife 8 years ago, cancer. After she died, people seemed like too much work. Easier to just be alone." Claire nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. Sometimes being alone feels safer than trusting people who might hurt you. "Yeah," he agreed, though he suspected they were talking about very different kinds of pain. 2 weeks passed. The road had been clear for 10 days, but neither of them mentioned it. Claire had settled into the rhythm of ranch life, and Grayson found himself talking more than he had in years. They'd share coffee at dawn, work side by side during the day, and sit by the fire in the evenings, gradually sharing pieces of themselves. Then the phone call came. Grayson answered the landline in the kitchen, and Claire's entire body went rigid. Her face drained of color as she heard him say, "No, nobody by that name here. You've got the wrong number." When he hung up, she was trembling. "That was him, wasn't it?" Grayson asked gently. "Whoever you're running from." Claire's composure cracked. "His name is Marcus. We were married for 5 years. When I tried to leave the first time, he broke my arm. Said if I ever tried again, he'd make sure I regretted it. 3 months ago, I finally got away while he was working. I've been moving ever since, never staying anywhere long enough to be found." She looked at Grayson with tears streaming down her face. "I should leave tonight. If he's calling ranches in this area, he's close. I won't bring that violence to your door." Grayson stood, walked to where she sat, and crouched down to meet her eyes. "You're not bringing anything anywhere. This is my door, my ranch, and my choice. You want to stay, you stay. You don't understand what he's capable of." "I spent 2 tours in Iraq," Grayson said quietly. "I understand violence, and I understand that sometimes people need a place where they can stop running. If you want this to be that place, it can be." Claire searched his face, looking for pity or obligation, but found only steady certainty. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to consider what it might feel like to stop running. Marcus showed up on a grey February morning. Grayson was in the barn when he heard the truck engine. By the time he reached the house, a man in his 30s was pounding on the door, shouting Claire's name. "She's not here," Grayson said calmly, rifle held loosely at his side. Marcus turned, his face twisted with rage. "Like hell she's not. I tracked her phone to this area. She's mine, old man. You don't want to get involved in this." "Already involved," Grayson replied. "And she's not yours. She's not anybody's. She's a person who asked for shelter and I gave it. Now you're trespassing." Marcus took a step forward, then stopped when Grayson raised the rifle. "You think you're protecting her? I'll wait. I'll come back. She can't hide here forever." "Actually, she can," Grayson said evenly. "This is private property. You come back, it's harassment. I got cameras now. Show up again, I call the sheriff. He's a friend. So are most of the ranchers within 50 miles. You'll find Montana folks don't take kindly to men who terrorize women." Something shifted in Marcus's expression. The realization that his power had limits, that his threats meant nothing here. "She'll leave eventually." "Maybe," Grayson said. "But that'll be her choice, not yours." After Marcus's truck disappeared down the road, Grayson found Claire standing in the doorway, tears on her face. But these weren't tears of fear. They were something else entirely. "No one's ever stood up for me like that," she whispered. "Get used to it," Grayson said. "You're staying, right?" Claire looked at this weathered man who'd opened his home and his life to a stranger who'd faced down her demons without hesitation. She thought about the past weeks, the peace she'd found, the connection that had grown between them, the feeling of finally being safe. "Yeah," she said. "If you'll have me, I'm staying." 6 months later, on a clear August evening, Claire stood on the porch watching the sunset paint the Montana sky in shades of gold and crimson. The ranch had become truly home. She'd learned every acre, knew each cow by sight, had planted a garden that flourished in the summer sun. Grayson joined her, slipping his hand into hers, a gesture that had become natural over the months. They'd moved slowly, carefully, 2 people learning to trust again. But trust had grown into something deeper, something neither had expected to find. "Talk to the lawyer today," Grayson said. Divorce papers were filed. Marcus signed them. "You're free." Claire exhaled, feeling a weight lift that she'd carried for so long, she'd forgotten what lightness felt like. "Free," she repeated, testing the word. "So," Grayson said, his weathered face showing a hint of nervousness that made her smile. "Been thinking. This ranch works better with 2 people. House feels right with you in it. Was wondering if you'd consider making it permanent. I know we haven't known each other long, but—" "Yes," Claire interrupted, turning to face him. "Yes to all of it." 3 weeks later, they married in a simple ceremony at the ranch. with just the sheriff and his wife as witnesses. Claire wore a simple white dress. Grayson wore his best shirt, and they exchanged vows on the same porch where she'd first knocked, desperate and alone. As they stood together watching their first sunset as husband and wife, Grayson pulled her close. "Never expected this," he admitted. "When you knocked on my door that night, I figured I'd give you shelter for one night. Didn't know you'd become my whole world." Claire leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Two broken people," she said softly, "finding out we fit together better than we ever fit alone." The Montana wind whispered through the grass, carrying with it no more loneliness, no more fear, just the sound of two people who'd found in each other what they'd stopped believing existed: connection, safety, and a love born from the simple act of opening a door on a winter night. Some storms bring destruction. This one had brought home.